who would decide the status of whether the rest of the UK alone, in the event of a yes vote, will be the continuing state? If so, Scotland would be considered a new state, or if both the rest of the UK and Scotland would be continuing states, because the implication of this appears to be if only the rest of the UK is deemed the continuing state, then all assets originally belonging to the UK will be transferred to the rest of the UK, while Scotland would have to start from scratch.
Adam Tomkins.
I think the analysis contained in that legal opinion, in terms of its analysis of public international law, has never seriously been questioned by anybody. And it is that, in the event of a yes vote in September, what that would mean as a matter of international law is that Scotland becomes a new state in international law and the rest of the United Kingdom becomes the continuator state. Why? For a range of reasons. That's what happened in 1922 when the Irish Free State was created. The Irish Free State was a new state in international law, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland became the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. That's also what happened when the Soviet Union collapsed. Russia was the continuator state. It's not what happened in Czechoslovakia, when the Czech and Slovak republics were both new states and Czechoslovakia was dissolved. I understand that Scottish ministers have said that they don't accept that position. I understand that that's what Scottish ministers have said, but Scottish ministers have not explained in international legal terms the grounds on which they don't accept the position. And I think that's because there are no grounds on which that position can credibly be challenged as a matter of law. Now, I never have said that politics won't be part of it. But I hope we would all accept, those of us who are neutral in this debate, those of us who are in favour of independence, and those of us who are opposed to it, we would all accept that whatever political negotiations follow from any yes vote in September should take place within a framework of established principles of law. And the idea that international power politics should trump the rule of law is one that I would feel very uncomfortable with. I would hope that we could all agree that whatever happens to Scotland's constitutional future, with a yes vote or a no vote, it takes place within and according to and subject to a framework of principles of international and constitutional law.
Willie Coffey.
Thanks very much, Convener. Just to briefly continue this theme, I'm a wee bit kind of disappointed with the tone of some of Professor Tomkins' contributions here. It's almost as if there's going to be a great big bun fight and a battle and arguments and disagreements and aggression after independence. That's completely at odds with the spirit enshrined in the Edinburgh Agreement, where a yes vote for independence for Scotland will lead to a respectful and understanding negotiating position on behalf of both governments. And I would say to you that, you know, if you're right in what you say about international law, saying that the UK keeps everything and we start from scratch, as my colleague Jamie McGregor suggests here, I would suggest to you that that's not how it will play out in practice between two states that will respect each other because of our mutual and shared history. If it's not, then what's the past 300 years of the Union been about? Has Scotland always been some kind of second fiddle subservient partner in this Union? I thought it was an equal partnership we were playing. So I would
say, Willie should be careful not to talk Scotland down. I mean, we've not played a subservient part. We've led, Scotland has led the United Kingdom and shown right across the world. So there's a danger here that this is turning into a debate rather than actually an evidence gathering here.
Well, when you're getting points like that, Alec, really at the table, you really have to respond to that and defend Scotland. I think if we have played an equal role in the Union, as you and your colleagues would suggest we have done, you play, well, okay, I'm not even going to claim that, I'll play an equal role in that, to be respectful to everyone here at the table. I think we're entitled to expect equanimity and consideration for the equal distribution of assets and liabilities after a yes vote. I think that's the right and proper way to approach it, and that's an approach that I would take from an equal point of view to respect both partners.
Okay, just be careful we're respecting each other around the table as well, please, if you don't mind. Jamie McGregor and then Professor Tomkins.
I mean, the point of these sessions is for clarification of, you know, and to take evidence from these experts who are around the table. It's not about saying what should happen.
Mr Tomkins.
Thank you very much. On the Edinburgh Agreement, first, Mr Coffey, the Edinburgh Agreement commits both sides to respect the outcome of the referendum. If there's a yes vote, that Scotland will become an independent state. If there's a no vote, Scotland won't become an independent state. That's all the Edinburgh Agreement says about respecting the outcome of the referendum. It says absolutely nothing whatsoever about how the very difficult process of unpicking a 307-year-old union should proceed thereafter. Now, I have absolutely not said what you have accused me of saying. I have not said that in the event of a yes vote, the rest of the United Kingdom keeps everything. I have made very carefully and clearly a distinction, which is not of my own invention, but which I find in international law, which neither of us are the authors of, between institutions and, on the one hand, and assets and liabilities on the other. And I'm afraid, inconvenient as it might be to some people, it is a matter of international law that in the event of a yes vote, the public institutions of the United Kingdom automatically become the public institutions of the rest of the United Kingdom. And there's nothing any of us can do about that. I have not said that that means that the UK takes everything. On the contrary, I have said, in terms of building public institutions, in terms of building public institutions.
Excuse me, if we don't have an argument across the table, what I want to do is to try and investigate as much as possible. Sorry, Alec.
A point in order.
No, wait,
the
Alec,
witness is given evidence, and I think you should continue to give the evidence.
Can you let me finish, please? Can you let me finish, please? What I want to do, and for this committee's purpose, is to investigate how these things would work. Now, we're talking about speaking to experts today. I would want to go to Juliet to give us some of the you don't have a point of order, Alec.
Yeah, I do. You may not like the evidence, but you can't just cut the evidence off.
I can if it's becoming contentious. I'm sorry, Alec. I'm the convener. I can decide. Yes, it is becoming contentious, and I'm not having a Member of Parliament and a witness in this situation. So I'm sorry. Juliet, could you give us your interpretation of how states would work as far as when they are negotiating? I'm sorry, Alec. You can't have a point of order, Alec. I'm sorry, we're moving on.
You can't just cut somebody off because you don't like the evidence they've given, for goodness sake.
I'm not cutting somebody off because I don't like the evidence. The evidence is becoming very
exactly
contentious.
What you've just done.
The evidence is becoming contentious, and I'm sticking to the themes of this inquiry. Juliet, could you give us your Patricia?
Convener, I've always understood, and I believe I'm correct in my assumption, that the purpose of our committees is to scrutinise what the government is proposing, whether it be in legislation or elsewhere. I thought that was the purpose of today's session, and to take from experts their views and their considered opinions as to what that might be. I have no problem with any of the evidence that's been given by any of the witnesses this morning, but even if I did, I think I would hear it respectfully and consider it when I come to make my deliberations when the committee wants to come to report. I'm really worried that we're in danger of not doing that today. And I really do think we need to hear what Professor Tomkins had to say and then perhaps move on to the next issue.
But what I didn't want was Professor Tomkins and Willie Coffey arguing across the table. That's what I was stopping. Not hearing the evidence, but both were arguing across the table, which is not appropriate.
Well, I think interrupting a witness is not appropriate.
I interrupted both of them, Patricia. Interrupted both of them.
With the greatest respect, Coffey was interrupting the witness giving evidence.
I interrupted both of
That's
them.
what you should have stopped, not the evidence.
I'm going to move on, because I think we need to move on and hear from the other witnesses we have in the room today. I hope everyone agrees with that and we can move on. We're just about out of time, but I want to make sure that all of my colleagues around the table, and I don't know if you've got any final points to add, Professor Tomkins, if you want to add, and any of the colleagues around the table, if you want to make any final points. Professor Tomkins.
To make one final point, Convener, thank you, and that is that one issue that has not been discussed in the conversation this morning, which I've enjoyed, and thank you for inviting me and allowing me to participate for the most part, is costs. The reason why this distinction between institutions and assets and liabilities, which you did not allow me to finish explaining in my earlier response, which was a response to correct the record, having my earlier evidence having been misrepresented by a member. The reason why this matters is not because it's an arcane point of international jurisprudence. It's because if the white paper is, as I believe it is, wrong to say that Scotland will automatically, an independent Scotland, would automatically be entitled to its fair share of UK overseas properties, then it's obviously the case that Scotland is going to have to develop these networks, develop these properties, find diplomatic staff, train them, pay them from its own resources. And these are part of the inevitable start-up costs of an independent Scottish state, which the Independence White Paper famously says nothing about. And I do think that it would be, if I may respectfully say so, remiss of a committee such as this, which is charged with the responsibility of safeguarding the public purse, not to consider the cost implications of the issues that we've been discussing this morning. Would it be in the best interests of an independent Scotland and the rest of the UK to cooperate fully in the event of Scottish independence? Of course it would. Would that happen? Yes, it would. But it would not happen on the unilaterally declared assertions of one party. That's not how negotiations work. I'm sure that agreements could be arrived at between Edinburgh and London, between Edinburgh and a range of other foreign capital cities, as to the sharing of diplomatic premises, but these things don't come free. There would be a fee attached, as there is under the European Union in terms of consular sharing arrangements.
In the Union at the moment for Scotland, because we contribute to the current system.
I got told off for speaking across a member, so I don't know if I'm... is it back with me? It's back with me.
Sorry.
I have no doubt that these things could be accommodated. I don't know what the costs are. I have to say, as a citizen, I'm disappointed that the Scottish Government have not furnished those costs. I think it's their responsibility to do so, and I think it's this Parliament's responsibility to keep pressing on that question.
Patricia. I think Professor Tomkins actually makes a very good point about the costs, and perhaps the committee would wish to write to the Scottish Government and ask for an analysis and breakdown of what it estimates the cost might be. I think it would help to illuminate the debate around these issues. Useful.
Useful idea. Any final comments before Willie Coffey?
Thanks very much, Convener. I mean, I think when comments are made around the table, I think we're entitled to respond to those, and particularly the comment I was responding to was Jamie's comment about the starting from scratch issue, which led to a discussion about what that might mean and so on and so forth. I mean, when you're ultimately talking about a break-up of assets and liabilities, I mean, if one party by law keeps all the assets, then presumably by law that party also keeps all the liabilities and all the debts. So I wonder if that's a standpoint that members would agree with. It's certainly not a position I would support. I support a position where we both agree a sensible agreement and carve up of all assets and liabilities after independence. But you can't have it both ways. If you're going to keep everything and make Scotland start from scratch, I'm afraid you have to think about keeping all the liabilities and debts that you've accrued on our behalf as well.
I think that's something that Patricia's very good, lost my words now, suggestion to write to the Scottish Government. Then there's obviously ground there for maybe looking at assets and liabilities as well as the costs then. Happy to do that. Jamie.
Yes. Thank you, Convener, for allowing me in. I just want to say that I asked, in my view, a perfectly legitimate and important question, and obviously with respect to Mr. Coffey, he has every right to give his opinion on it, but also any of the witnesses, in my view, have the right to complete their evidence. And I want to make a protest that on this occasion you stopped, the convener, a witness in midstream from completing his evidence. And I'm glad this is in the public domain today.
Yeah, Jamie, absolutely, and we obviously have nothing to hide in this committee, but what there was a dual exchange across the table, and that's what I wanted to stop. And then when we came to the end of our evidence, that's why I wanted Professor Tomkins to come back in and finish what he had to say. I was very keen to hear what he had to say as well. But we did have a bit of a spat going on, and we needed to calm that down to move on. Okay? Can I take this opportunity to thank everyone who has given evidence at committee today? It's obviously a very emotional and sparky debate that's going on for everybody, both sides of the argument, on many topics. If, as I said earlier, if you do have additional information, I know that both sides of the human rights argument would be something I would be very interested in personally, and I think the committee would be. But any of the other arguments we've heard around the table today, if anybody's got anything additional to add, that would be very helpful in our deliberations. And I kind of thank you all very much. And thank you, Alison, for joining us from Iceland. Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you. I believe our next committee meeting is 26, where we'll hear from the Minister, Hamza Yousaf, on all of the topics that we've discussed in our 3 one-off sessions. And I now close the meeting. Thank you.